Your bio mentions dealing with PTSD. This challenge has been in the public eye a lot, probably the last 20 years, especially due to the Mideast wars. What has been your path to recovery?
My path to recovery, it's been a bumpy one, and I think it probably is for most folks that live with PTSD. And that could be, veterans or anyone who's went through a traumatic experience can experience it. But for about 15 years, I kind of stuffed it down. Kept telling myself, I'm fine, I'm all right, I'm a veteran, I can deal with this. Pull up your big girl panties, Kim, you're fine. Quit being a baby. That's in my head. All that negative self-talk that we give ourselves, you know? And I did that for about 15 years. And so I thought I was doing pretty good, you know, until I wasn't. And it was just life came at me all kinds of ways. I experienced my grandmother passed away. I was going through a divorce. A dear friend of mine committed suicide. And all of this stuff it just felt like it was just, you know, kicks to the gut. And then all that stress and all that grief and torment was bringing up all kinds of stuff from the 15 years prior. And it was just a swirly mess in my head. I didn't know what was going on with me. I was like, oh gosh, there's something wrong. I think I'm going crazy. Am I going crazy? And I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, was losing all kinds of weight. And friends of mine in the veteran post that I'm a member of, they happen to be combat Vietnam vets. And they're about 20 years older than me. And a few of them noticed a difference in me, that shift. And they always called me kid. They said, kid, we don't know what's causing everything that you're going through right now or what your issues are, but we recognize them. And if you don't get yourself to the VA, we're going to drag you kicking and screaming. And I did not answer them in a nice way. I was like,
Big
yeah,
surprise.
I was like, I'm fine. Leave me bleep 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 alone. And they said, "Now, if you don't go, we will take you." And they did. They did take me.
They
Um,
literally kidnapped you and hauled you over to
yes.
the VA hospital.
And
Okay.
I was angry. I was super angry. And at that time, and this is quite a while ago, I'm aging myself, but this was quite a while ago. At that time, there were nothing. There were no programs, no counselors, no nothing in place for female veterans. And I had experienced sexual assault by two individuals. There were no female counselors. They didn't know what to do with me. And the counselor, a gentleman, of course, and he happened to be a Vietnam vet as well. When I was in his office with him that first night, he just said, because I had told myself, I told him, I'm not sharing anything with you. I was made to come here. He goes, that's fine. We can sit here and stare at each other for 45 minutes if you want. I'm like, fine, good, we will. And we did. We did. We stared at each other for 45 minutes. But he was very honest and said, we don't know what to do with you. We don't have anything in place for you. He goes, so we're going to be learning together how to get you feeling better because that's the goal. And I will always appreciate him being so honest. And I kept going back. The guys kept taking me back. And then I started going on my own. And it was a very slow, very bumpy, very, very hard process. But once I started gathering some tools in my tool belt, that's what I like to say, it was easier to recognize certain things that might cause me to seize up in a panic attack. Or because I suffered from pretty decent anxiety and I would hyperventilate or I would just freeze. I'd be in Walmart and I couldn't move. It was not a fun place to be. And gathering those tools on my journey, I was able to utilize them and recognize certain things that might trigger me or whatever. I could recognize them now before they come and before it hits me hard. And I'll be like, all right, Kim, deep breath. We got this. We can do this. You're in a safe place. You're okay. Look around you. You're fine. So there's certain things that, certain little tools that I still carry with me to this day because it could be a song, it could be a smell, that all of a sudden just makes me go, it literally takes my breath away for a minute or two.
Now, did you ever did they give you anti-anxiety meds to help deal with this?
I fought that.
Good.
Surprise.
Yeah.
And I refused that for a long time, but it did get to a point where I was becoming so unhealthy physically. Because thankfully, I was not one that turned to drinking or drugs, anything like that.
Yeah.
I was just stubbornly fighting it on my own, you know. But then I did. There was a time I went to my doctor, my regular doctor, in a full blown panic attack, and it was just not stopping. It wouldn't stop.
Hmm.
And he said, Kim, we have to do this now. And I'll never forget this with him. He said, you are trying so hard to climb this mountain, but it doesn't have to be a mountain. He goes, I will give you the smallest dosage, and we will start you off at 3 months, and we'll see. We'll just go and see how it works for you. He goes, but those mountains will become molehills. So instead of trying to climb, you'll be able to step over. And I've never forgotten that. And so I did take an anti anxiety for about 6 months. And that was years and years ago. And I would say over the last 25 years, I've done that 3 separate occasions for 6 months at a time. And because my body does not react well to any type of medication.
Sure.
I experience all the side effects. I'm super, super sensitive. Um, so that's why it's like, building up my tool belt the best that I can.
Right.
And because I felt like that was a weakness to have to take
Sure.
a pill, even though it
Did
was
you
only,
ever
it was
get
like 10 milligrams. It was the lowest ever. But it did make the mountains turn into molehills, so I could step over them instead of struggling to climb.
right. Now, did you ever get a female counselor?
I did, but it took about 13 years.
Oh my goodness. And were you meeting with a psychiatrist or a psychologist?
A psychologist. And then
Okay.
some just what are they? I can't remember the letters. Counselors, not a psychologist or a
Social
psychiatrist.
workers.
Not a social worker either. Yes. Yes, you're right, but
Yes,
there's
the
extra letters
counselors,
that they
certified
add on.
counselor. Yes, I know
Yeah.
there's a couple, lots of other alphabet soup like
Yes,
that.
that's a
Yes.
lot of letters, and they've added to them. So there was a couple ladies because one moved on. I was with her for a while, and then she moved on to another position. But yeah, it took a long time. Now now there are things in place. There's programs in place specifically for women, for female
Good,
veterans,
good.
and there's all kinds of things that the VA provides, which is awesome. But I was kind of what did my one counselor, the gentleman that I first saw, he said, we're going to have to blaze a trail with you. And I remember clearly saying, I don't want to be a trailblazer. I just want to feel better.
This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.